Iranian officials responded, saying that they would propose adding U.S. forces to their own list of terror groups. Press TV, Iran's state-run English-language news channel, provided analysis.
Hello and welcome. You're watching World News on Press TV. Thank you for joining us. My name is Gisumi Shahmadi, and these are top stories this hour. The U.S. has formally designated Iran's Islamic Revolution Guards Corps as a foreign terrorist organization. In response, Iran's top security council designated the U.S. Central Command in the region, known as CENTCOM, as a terrorist group. More in the following report.
Since U.S. President Donald Trump took office in January 2017, he has left no stone unturned to exert pressure on Iran through sanctions and threats. Trump even showed no scruples about breaching the internationally recognized 2015 nuclear deal to achieve its anti-Iran goals. On Monday, the U.S. president once again put the spotlight on his hostility against Iran and formally designated the Islamic Revolution Guards Corps as a foreign terrorist organization. In a statement, Trump accused the IRGC of financing and promoting terrorism. His Secretary of State also warned global businesses against any dealings with the IRGC.
Businesses and banks around the world now have a clearer duty to ensure that companies with which they conduct financial transactions are not connected to the IRGC in any material way.
Political analysts say the Trump administration has revealed the real face of the U.S. by its move against the IRGC.
This administration, contrary to the other administrations, actually states the reality of what America is and does not try to mask the behavior of America in, nice rhetoric or the language of diplomacy or the language of being friends.
The Israeli premier spared no time to heap praise on the U.S. president for his decision. Benjamin Netanyahu said Trump labeled the IRGC as a terror group at his request. In a retaliatory move, Iran's top security council designated the U.S. Central Command in the region, known as CENTCOM, as a terrorist group. Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif described the U.S. measure a misadventure in the region and a misguided election eve gift to the Israeli premier. The U.S. argues that the IRGC promotes terrorism, while the Defense Force played a key role in defeating Daesh terrorists in Syria and Iraq by providing advisory support to the two Arab nations. Trump's decision marks the first time the U.S. has formally labeled another country's military a terrorist group. The Pentagon and U.S. intelligence agencies have already raised concerns about the impact Trump's decision may incur. Whatever the consequences, it could give a green light to terror groups such as Daesh to once again raise their ugly head in the region.
To discuss that more, we're joined by Fuad Izzadi, lecturer at the University of Tehran. Thank you very much, Mr. Izzadi, for joining us on this edition of Press TV's World News. Now, this is a very outrageous move by the U.S. We've seen the Trump administration take very bold steps, but this one really tops them all, designating the military of a country as a terrorist organization. What do you think is behind this decision? And let's not forget that it is because of the IRGC that we were able to fight terrorism and Daesh in particular in Syria and Iraq.
The U.S. government wants to overthrow the Iranian government. Same policy they had in 1953. It seems nothing has changed in Washington in the last 67 years. So that's the objective, and they're not very good at it. They are not successful in terms of achieving that goal, and they need to engage in propaganda, occasionally at least, to tell their friends that they're actually doing something. IRGC has been sanctioned severely in the past, and obviously the sanctions in the past has not worked, because if the previous sanctions had worked, they would not need to impose new sanctions. And there's no more room for new sanctions, basically, because all the sanctions that were available at U.S. disposal have been utilized. So what the U.S. government has done is more in line with its propaganda activities. Also, tomorrow we have the Israeli elections. I think Trump has been trying to make sure that Benjamin Netanyahu stays as Israeli prime minister, and he has been helping him, interfering basically in Israeli elections. And the Golan Heights designation, moving of the embassy were the two previous actions that the U.S. engaged in. This is the third one on the eve of the elections, and Bibi Netanyahu actually went out of his way to thank Donald Trump for this. So we don't take this that seriously in Iran. I don't think this is going to have any actual results, and there are no new sanctions available to impose on IRGC. I was following the oil prices. Oil prices are up, and this is actually good since Iran sells oil. We can maybe thank Donald Trump for raising oil prices, at least today. So no worries, and the U.S. policy towards Iran will not succeed.
Mr. Izadi, if you could quickly also comment on the issue that it was because of the IRGC that we were able to fight terrorism in the region, particularly fighting Daesh and defeating Daesh in Iraq and in Syria. Is that how they thank the IRGC?
Obviously, the reason you have the current Iraqi government in place is because of the help that Iran gave during the time that ISIS was about 40 kilometers away from Baghdad. They called Washington, they called Tehran. Washington was not able to assist. Tehran was able to do so, and that's how ISIS was not able to take over Baghdad. And the Iraqi politicians understand that and have thanked Iran. We had the Iraqi Prime Minister in Tehran yesterday basically making the same point. So Iran has been fighting ISIS in Iraq, in Syria, in other places. And the US government has, at times at least, helped ISIS. If you want to believe Donald Trump, he used to say that the US government created ISIS. So you basically make your conclusion. Who is supporting terrorism, Iran or the United States?
Thank you very much, Mr. Fuad Izadi, lecturer at the University of Tehran, joining us live from the Iranian capital.